At the start of the movie, our handsome protagonist, Towa Furuya, narrates his story. Ever since he was little, Towa has been surrounded and adored by girls. From kindergarten to junior high, he has always been a ladies' man. Even on school premise, he is welcomed by a swarm of girls fawning over him every day. Their constant attention has convinced him that he is irresistible to females. However, we learn that Towa has never had a girlfriend and has zero experience with the opposite sex. One day, a classmate named Koji, who has a girlfriend, tells Towa that he is meant to be ornamental only, meaning Towa is a boy who girls like to admire because of his handsome looks, but they don't really want to get close to him. Initially, when he hears this, Towa gets upset. However, when he realizes that he is the most handsome guy in school, he vows to get a girlfriend and leaves. With the help of his friends, Towa begins to look for girls at the school who could be a potential match for him. His friends suggest every pretty girl, including the cheerleading captain, the popular violinist, and even the sports captain. However, Towa rejects everyone until he sets his eyes on the most popular girl, the beautiful and unyielding Misono Miwa, who has turned down every boy who has asked her out. His friends warn him that Misono is out of his league, but the proud Towa thinks she will melt in his arms as soon as he makes his intentions clear. In the next scene, Towa approaches Misono and proposes to her with overflowing confidence. However, she rejects him instantly, calling his proposal crummy. Towa never imagined he would be unsuccessful in approaching girls and can't accept the reality of his situation. Following the rejection, his friends suggest he consider different girls. However, Towa decides that he won't be deterred so easily and embarks on a mission to change Misono's mind and salvage his pride. Undaunted, he approaches her once again, but Misono seems to be very clear. She doesn't want to be with him. However, the more Towa persists in his pursuit of Misono, the more he becomes aware of her kindness and good nature, which makes him fall genuinely in love with her. Towa's friends search the internet and make a list of how to win a girl's heart. The list includes approaching the girl in unexpected places and helping her out during a crisis. Towa follows the list, attempting to bump into Misono on the local bus. One day, as he is watching her from the backseat of the bus, Misono gets into a fight with a bully. She wants the bully to leave his seat for a pregnant passenger, but he won't do it. This is when she becomes enraged and starts screaming at the top of her lungs, which causes the bully to finally leave his seat. The bus arrives at the destination and Misono takes off. However, she is followed by the bully and harassed. Towa sees this and remembers the save the girl from a crisis tactic from the list and hurries to defend her. Unfortunately, he gets beaten by the bully until Misono calls for the police. After the incident, the two head towards their school together, and Misono thanks Towa for attempting to help her. Our hero is obviously flattered by her kind words. Later, Towa explains the incident to his friends and how he ended up getting beaten up by the bully. Just then, he sees a bright and happy Misono coming his way. The friends know that she barely smiles and wonders what got into her being so happy. Towa thinks it's because she started to like him and waves at her. However, Misono is unaffected and walks past the boys to eagerly greet their art teacher, Ryuji Misaki. This is when Towa comes to a shocking realization. Misono only has eyes for Misaki. The revelation breaks his heart, although his friends try to console him. They continue to suggest that he look for another girl that is in his league. However, Towa is adamant about pursuing his first ever crush. After school, he follows Misono to her home and tells her that he will continue to confess his feelings for her every day. During their conversation, Towa mistakenly destroys the letterbox outside her home. Later, he heads home, retrieves a toolbox, and returns to fix the letterbox. While he is hammering the nails, Misono arrives from her part-time job and sees Towa. The latter is so busy with his mending work that he is startled when Misono calls him, causing him to accidentally hurt his hand. As a result, she invites him in and tends to his injured hand. Then, they eat dinner together in the kitchen. Towa wants to learn more about Misono, so he attempts to talk to her. However, she seems uninterested in his small talk. Just then, Towa notices a painting on the wall and asks Misono about it. She says that it was her father's last painting before he succumbed to an illness. Misono was only 9 years old when she lost him. Towa tries to comfort her and asks if she always lived like this, alone and with no friends. Unfortunately, Misono takes this comment to offense and scolds him for suggesting that she is lonely. She angrily says that she doesn't have time to hang out with friends because of her part-time job. Upset, Towa returns home, wondering if he will ever convince her to be his. Just then, an idea strikes him, and the following morning, we see Towa move next to Misono's apartment. When she wakes up, she finds him happily greeting her good morning. Of course, she thinks it's an absurd idea. That day at school, Towa shares his recent developments with his friends. They are happy for him, and since Towa started to live alone, they give him a collection of porn magazines. Suddenly, Misaki, the art teacher, interrupts their conversation, explaining that he will be substituting for an absent teacher. Towa notices Misono's face light up as soon as she sees Misaki. This breaks his heart, and he begins to envy the teacher. One day, Towa lies on his bed, wondering how he can win Misono's heart when she likes somebody else. Just then, he hears a loud noise next door. He goes to check, only to find two gangsters slamming at Misono's apartment door. They demand money that her mother owes them. Meanwhile, we see a scared Misono hiding in a room, not knowing what to do. Just as the gangsters are about to barge in, Towa sneaks inside her apartment through the back window and suggests she hide in his apartment. She initially refuses, but when the gangsters threaten her from outside, she agrees. In the next scene, we see the pair navigating balconies and finally reach Towa's apartment. The gangsters barge inside Misono's room, but they find the place vacant. However, soon after, they discover the pair and threaten to harm Misono if she doesn't go with them. Towa begs the men to leave them alone and refuses to hand over Misono. He even hugs her tightly so she won't be taken away. Seeing his plea, the gangster leaves them alone, but not before declaring that they will be back. After the men leave, Misono thanks Towa and he invites her to dinner. From this day onwards, their friendship grows, and Misono finally begins opening up to him. One day during their art class, the students are tasked to sketch a picture of fruit. We learn that Misono is a talented artist and that she has been taking private lessons with the art teacher. Meanwhile, Misaki notices that Towa's sketch is a complete mess and that he hasn't been improving, so the teacher wants Towa to take a private class with him after school. Later, Towa goes to Misaki's office for his personal lesson. Out of curiosity, he asks the teacher if he likes Misono. Misaki says yes, but not before explaining that she is a talented artist, with the potential to get a college scholarship due to her gift. Towa realizes with relief that the teacher doesn't like Misono in a romantic way. Just then, Misono arrives at the office and cheerfully greets the teacher. As expected, this upsets Towa. While returning home from school, Misono reveals that she wants to become an artist like her father. She wants to go abroad, but her family doesn't have enough money. This is why she is aiming for an art scholarship and also why she is relying on Misaki, the art teacher. Hearing all this, Towa says that she is such an amazing and thoughtful person. The following day, he reveals to his friends that he is falling deeper for Misono, but she only has eyes for her art teacher. The friends suggest they organize this year's overnight field trip so that Towa can spend more time with his crush. Later at dinner, Towa tells Misono about the upcoming field trip. We see that it has become routine for the pair to eat dinner together, as Towa always cooks an amazing meal for his crush. Unfortunately, during their conversation, Misono reveals that she isn't going on the trip, although she doesn't reveal the reason. The next day, the gangsters return and demand the money. She gives them her savings, but it isn't enough, so she promises to pay them the remaining amount once she gets her next month's wage. Towa arrives at the scene and learns about this. After collecting the money, the gangsters are just about to leave when they spot Towa. One of them drags him to a park and reveals Misono's financial situation. We learn that Misono's mom went into debt when her husband was diagnosed with a brain tumor. Since she alone cannot pay the debt, Misono is working a part-time job to help pay it. This is when Towa realizes that Misono isn't going on the field trip because she doesn't have the money for it. Desperate to help Misono financially, Towa takes up multiple part-time jobs. In the meantime, he also decides to cook a sumptuous meal for her every day and leave it at her door. Misono begins anticipating his kind gestures and even starts liking him. After working for a few days, Towa manages to gather enough money to pay for Misono's field trip. The day of the overnight trip finally arrives. Towa is confident that he will confess his true feelings to Misono. Upon reaching the site, the teacher suggests the students partner up in twos so they can go up to the nearby hill to observe the shooting stars and make a report about it. Given the opportunity, Towa quickly pairs up with Misono and takes her up the hill. Once there, he looks up at the starry sky and confesses his feelings. However, his moment is interrupted by other classmates who arrive at the scene to watch the shooting stars. The following day at school, the class teacher announces that Misaki, the art teacher, is resigning due to a family emergency. While other students couldn't care less, Misono is taken by surprise. She is devastated to know that her favorite teacher is leaving so soon. Following the sad news, Misono goes to her secret place and starts crying. She screams about why all the people she loves always leave her. Meanwhile, we see Towa lurking behind a tree, watching her cry. He is sad to see her in this state. The news of her teacher leaving affects Misono so much that she falls ill. Towa cares for her like always and promises to remain by her side. The following day, Misaki bids farewell in front of the entire school and tells the students that they can do anything if it makes them happy. Towa takes the teacher's speech to heart and runs off to Misono, who is on sick leave. Upon reaching her room, they decide they are going to the art teacher so that Misono can confess her feelings to him. But since she is too sick to travel, Towa calls his friends, and they arrive with the wheelchair. Following this, the group rushes Misono to the bus station, but they don't see Misaki. Towa then decides to carry her on his back and goes inside the bus. After they travel for a while and reach another station, they finally spot the art teacher. Misono hurries to confess her feelings. She tells Misaki that she likes him, and it's because of him that she will be able to get a scholarship. But as expected, the art teacher simply gives her an encouraging speech before taking off. After he leaves, Misono turns to Towa and reveals that she always saw the art teacher as a father figure, and that the bond that they had was like a father-daughter's. She then confesses her feelings for Towa, surprising him. The final scene of the movie, following a sweet kiss between the two, Towa promises to never let Misono be alone.